Good evening. This is Diane coming to you from Stamping Up, Stamping with Diane in Innisfil, Ontario. This is the most fabulous tumbler, I have to tell you. It keeps my ice cold drinks super ice cold, and it comes in all of our in colors. You can order yours at my online store, dianethatcher.stampingup.net, and keep your beverages super cold or super hot. I'm coming to you on July 20th, and tonight's tips are about vellum paper. Stampin' Up sells patterned vellum paper in 12 by 12 sheets, and it also sells plain vellum paper in the 8.5 by 11 cardstock size of paper, and you get 20 sheets of that. The codes are here, and they both retail for $13.75. So I wanted to share a few tips with you. So tonight I have my July host code available all month. Our celebration is ongoing for this month. $60 earns you a free product from the celebration catalog. Tonight I'm using a Starry Sky card base, and I have embossed this with this beautiful floral embossing folder. I popped it on top, so there's a smaller layer there. And then I've coordinated it with a little bit of our tea DSP, so either way it would look nice. So we could put it this way or this way. For tonight, I'm going to just add a little bit of white glue here and put it with the teacups showing, and I'll just kind of center that. Now, here is a piece of our plain vellum. Sitting on top, oops, I got a little bit of glue there. Sitting on top, it looks fantastic, just like this. And then we could layer it up with a little teacup and a little note, and we could pop a lemon inside of our teacup. Nothing wrong with that, but did you know you can take the vellum and run it through our embossing folders? So any of the embossing folders, you can run the vellum through and get the textured look on the vellum. So here it is with the plain, and here it is. Look at how much texture you can detect from there. Well, last week's video, I was showing you some tearing techniques. So I thought I would show you that as well using our vellum. Same technique, we just tear towards ourselves. And this one's kind of fun to tear because it is kind of the honeycomb pattern. The tears are kind of following the edges of the honeycombs. So I'm trying to deviate from that a little bit. And there's that torn look. Isn't that fun? So here's your three possibilities: plain vellum, embossed vellum, and torn embossed vellum. So that's the one I'm going to focus on tonight. So again, I'm going to just put some white glue on the back here and pop that on my card front. So it's muted the background a little bit, but that's okay. I want the focal point to be my little teacup, which I've used the teacup dies and the cup of tea stamp set. These coordinate beautifully together. And I've die cut out with the Fresh Freesia a plain teacup, and then layered it with the patterned one. I did the same thing with our lemon or lime. I've colored it yellow, and now I'm just going to slit it and actually let it come over top of my cup like this. Okay, so I'll pop that up. I'll just put a little drop of glue on the back of that. So with the vellum, again, these techniques that I'm going to show you tonight, you could use the patterned vellum or the plain vellum on any of these techniques. So paper tearing is fun with vellum as well. Let's see what my lemon looks like. Pop it on like this. Just hold that in place because I'm going to use my dimensional to secure that down. Pop the backs off. So tonight is all about techniques. If you watched my videos from the last couple of weeks, you would have seen some paper tearing ideas. And so this first technique uses the tearing paper as well. Okay, and there we go with a little, now I could add some bling on there, but there's our first card using our vellum. Tip number 1 is tearing the vellum. All right, let's move on. I want to show you 4 different tips tonight, so hang in there. Our second tip is going to be a different way of tearing, but before we get to it, I like to stamp something, and I'm going to be using the Amazing Silhouettes. So I'm popping this one out. There are 3 stamps in this series, and instead of just inking these up, I've chosen 3 different ink colors: Daffodil Delight, Mint Macron, and Polished Pink. So this is a fun way to get a little bit more color onto your stamp. So I could just pop this on like so, but I want to use a little bit of my sponge daubers, and I'm going to ink up the center part of this stamp with some yellow. Now you can't see it too much, but I can tell from the angle here some of the colors that I've got. Now I'm going to add some of the polished pink, and I've switched daubers, and it's okay if it blends with some of the yellow, that's fine. And then I'm going to take a third dauber and come right around the outside with some Mint Macron. So I'm trying to get multiple colors showing up on this unique stamp. I love the way this stamp works, but I think it's so fun to add a little bit more detail here. Now, because I haven't inked it all at once, I'm just going to use some warm air on that and make sure it's nice and juicy, I suppose. There we go. Pressing firmly. Aha! And we've got a variety of colors in there. I like it. I like it. Okay, let me just close these up out of the way. Then what I'm going to do is actually run this through my Stamp Cut and Emboss machine with an oval. I wanted to use an oval on here. So with the, well, let's go back to the card base first. So I've used, this is our thick with basic white. I've stamped congratulations on the bottom, and that comes from the Inspired Thoughts stamp set. And I've stamped thinking of you on your special day on the inside. And that's from the Inspired Thoughts. And then I'm just going to do a little bit of layering here. Very basic, just with our Mint Macron first. This is not embossed, just the Mint Macron. I cut it a bit smaller, and I'm using the white glue tonight. I think this is on low inventory, so I do have some in stock if you're looking for it. Adhesives are one thing we can have in stock. And then I've layered it with the polished pink. And this one I ran through an embossing machine, and I just wanted a little bit of texture in the corners. So I used one of our special, this one may be retired actually, this folder. Anyway, it's the technique that we are looking for. So there's my simple card base. This is going to be an easel card. And now I'm going to take a piece of our vellum, and we're going to do some tearing again. So I just want some random strips of vellum here. So again, I'm tearing from the back to the front. One strip. I don't want them too wide, and I'm hoping to get a variety of shapes here. 2 strips, and I'm going to do a 3rd strip. So it does tear nicely, and you do get a little bit of that white edge inside there. Then I'm going to layer. Okay, I didn't need to make it quite so wide, so let me snip off a little bit here. I think I had a different piece cut, but that's okay. I'll snip some off. And so one of these has a straight edge. I don't want that straight edge, so let me tear one more strip. I could hide that straight edge, but let's just do another one here. Snip a bit off that one. Okay, so I wanted to show you the neat effect of the torn vellum. Okay, isn't that fun? So again, plain vellum we could put on, but the torn vellum, I really like the look of that. Now with the amazing power here, I've already run this through, and slightly different, but that's okay. You get the idea. And now when you are gluing vellum, you want to be a little bit careful because the glue will show through. So I know that I'm going to be covering over the center part of this with my focal point. Okay, so the white glue, I can smush it right over. And I'll put a little bit on this one. I'm not trying to line up that vellum. There, I can see exactly where I've got my white glue. And I'll put this one like this. Just a few little daubs there. The vellum is fairly lightweight, although it does have substance to it. Okay, it's not, I wouldn't call it flimsy. And there we go. And there's our pretty focal point. I can put that any way I wish on there. I could pop it with dimensionals, but I think I'm just going to do this. So there's the idea of tearing your vellum. Now again, remember, you could get a very interesting effect if you tear the vellum with this patterned paper. It almost looks like a topographical map here. Okay, this one looks like it's from a newspaper or a book. Some has the dark script and some has the white or the black. So you can customize these to the cards that you're working on. So there's the torn vellum look. That's tip number 2, tearing our vellum. Now, tip number 3 is going to use the stamp set of Honeybee Home and the coordinating dies, the Honeybee Blooms dies. Now this one, we're going to do a few different things. I'm going to use some of our sparkle white paper, and I've already gone ahead and we're using a basic white for our card base. So let's just score, it's scored, and I'll smooth that out, get rid of my little bits here. I'll smooth that out with my bone folder. Now I'm using the Orchid Oasis. So here's our first layer of Orchid Oasis. I'm not going to be gluing things down just yet. Then we have a coordinating Orchid Oasis, and this is from the Tea Boutique paper. And what I've done is I've cut out a square using one of our dies. Now I haven't trimmed this off yet because I wanted to show you it could go either way. You decide. I think I'm safe to put this one down first. I want to show you a couple techniques with this card. So I've just created the base here. A few little dots around the edge. Don't get too close to the edge because our glue can squish out, so that's why I'm putting it on lightly, but it's allowing me to kind of wiggle that into place. All right, so I've got a piece of vellum. Now our vellum, let's see here. Okay, this is about the right size. Did you know you can color our vellum? So you can make it into any color you wish. So what I've got here is I decided to pull out a few of our blends markers. What I've got is the Tahitian Tide, which is one of our new in colors. This one is the Orchid Oasis, another one of our new in colors, and the Starry Sky, another one of the in colors. They all are quite similar in their tone. So I'm just going to get this out of the way, and I'm just going to start randomly coloring on the background here. So I'm going to kind of just put some swirls across here. I don't want each line to be the same width or size. So I'm starting with some of my darker tones, adding just some design texture to this with some of the darker tones. As I say, I can make it skinny. Okay, so I've used that one. I'm going to switch over to a different one. This is our Orchid Oasis. Now, it looks similar. And again, you can see now how the vellum has now got the color in it as well. Go down here. There's no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just kind of doing some abstract shapes in here. Bring that up to the corner. And now I'm going to add in the Tahitian Tide. It's this a brighter blue. Okay, and again, I'm using the dark of it. This is the dark. As you know, our stamping blends come in a lighter and a darker shade. Okay, so I'm just filling in some of these spaces. Kind of wave-like, just very random. Of course, you could do whatever you wish. Now I'm going to a new shade here, and maybe I'll just add little bits over here. Let's add a little bit in here. Just starting to kind of fill in some of the spots. It's turning out nicely. I like it. It's making me feel beachy. It's been very nice here. Nice weather-wise this week. We could use some more rain, but the beach, if it's calling you, maybe this will help. And I'll finish it off with some of our lighter. And now it's absolutely fine to kind of go right over top of anything that's left and blend these colors in. So what I'm doing to blend it is I'm using the lightest shade. So this is the light Tahitian Tide, just kind of filling in some spaces, running it over top, which is now pulling from some of the colors I originally put down. So now we're getting even more color than just the 6 markers that I used. And again, I wanted it to be light, so this is why I'm blending with the lightest shade, but I could have chosen to blend it with the darker shade. Okay, so what a different look that is from the plain vellum to the colored vellum. Isn't that amazing? So what I was thinking is I would just let it pop through the window here. So I could go with the teacups, but I don't want the teacups on this one. I'm thinking perhaps something like this would be nice. So I think I'm ready to trim this down. So this was at 4 1/4. So I will just grab my my trimmer here and make this one to 4 1/4, but I want about a similar, there we go, cut it there so that it's centered, and 4 1/4. Yes, that looks good. Is that what I want? 4 1/4? Let me check that. Let me check that. No, I want it bigger than 4 1/4. Yes, okay. I want it at 5 1/4. Oh, no, that's not quite right either, is it? Yes, yes. Focusing on the techniques instead of on my math. So look at that. Isn't that neat? Okay, I'm going to trim this off a little bit. So what I have done is I've actually made a separate one. I had made one earlier and I didn't blend the colors as much. So I'm going to do that. Well, let's leave it for now. Okay. So here's the one where I've really blended the colors. And this one is a little bit less blended, but I want you to take note of the color there, or you can even pop a different color behind and watch what happens. So this is the colored vellum. So now you're seeing, you really can see through this vellum still. And people would wonder how you made that. Okay, so I'm going to put that on the back. So that's any kind of DSP. I want just the dots to pop through. So I've got that a little bit too large. Well, no, that should be right. Yes, okay, we can make that work. So we're going to glue carefully here. I want this on the inside. So I'm just going to glue around the outside edge of the opening here. Let's put my silicone mat down. So coloring on the vellum can just really add interest to your card. You could color shapes, you can stamp on the vellum as well. Really, anything. Anything you do on paper, pretty much, you can do on vellum. So we've talked about embossing it. We've talked about, I'm gonna put the glue around here. We've talked about embossing it. We've talked about tearing the vellum. We've colored the vellum now using our stamping blends. I want the polka dots to show through. So now I'm just adding a different color in behind the vellum. See that? So now I'm getting those polka dots shining through. And that's going to be our focal point on the card. Now it's getting a little bit layered there, but that's okay. It's still quite light. As I mentioned, the vellum, although it has some sturdiness to it, it doesn't have a lot of weight to it. So putting that on our base, coordinating the colors, adding in that pop of color. And then I wanted to show you just a couple more things you can do. So let's, I mentioned we were going to be using the stamp set. Sorry, pop that away. Here it is, the Honeybee Home and the Honeybee Blooms. So I'm going to stamp with this one here, the large, whoops, I already have it out. And I'm going to stamp this with Memento Black. And I'm inking that up nicely. I'm going to stamp it straight down on this piece of basic white. And then I'm going to use a few of our blends. Now remember, this was the Orchid Oasis. So let's pull out the Orchid Oasis, the light Orchid Oasis marker. And I'm just going to start filling in some of the flowers here. This is with the light. And I'm not even trying to get too close to the edges here. Now this one I'm not going to blend too much because it already has some detail in the stamps. I'd like to add a little bit of mint macaron for the leaves. This is the dark, so I'm just putting a stripe down the center of those leaves. And now I'm pulling in the light of the mint macaron to fill in those leaves, anything that's left over. I'm gonna go over this black a little bit. It's not gonna show up tremendously, but it does add a little bit of color there. Fill in my leaves at the bottom. So fun to color and create with our products. Now there are some little bits of white showing there, but what I wanted to do is pull out a wee bit of the color. So this is our color lifter, and it's just going to make these a wee bit lighter. And it takes a minute for it kind of to show. So it's actually pulling out a little bit of the color. Okay, so I'm going to use a very light marker here. Oops, my husband started vacuuming. Bless his heart. Sorry about that noise. We're almost finished here, friends. Okay. So again, through the magic of video, I have this cut out for us. Ta-da! And that's going to be the center point on our card. I have also stamped Such Happy News, and I did one that's a little bit smaller, so I think that's going to come down as our base. But let me tell you one last thing you can do. You can also die cut the vellum. Oops. So what I've done here is I've die cut out a couple of the leaves. You can die cut, here they are out of green paper, and here they are out of vellum. So I'm just showing you, you can die cut vellum. You can die cut vellum to make with your labels. All kinds of things you can do with the vellum in that regard. So let's we're gonna layer this up like so. Put some of our leaves, and I think I'm gonna put a vellum leaf in there as well. And we'll layer our floral piece on top, okay? Now, just before I assemble all of that, one more trick, because we also sometimes have available vellum that has been shaped. So these were vellum doilies that we had for a little while. And sometimes, as I said, you can make your own shapes using our whatever dies that you have. And so a fun thing we can do is go back to our blends again, and we can use our blends. Oh, I didn't want to use the thin end. I want to use the thicker end. We're almost in here. This is our last tip or trick. So I'm just putting some of our colors on here. This is on a piece of shimmer white. Okay, so it's much darker, isn't it? It's coloring in much darker than it did on the vellum. And then I'll add, I think this time we're going to kind of go in order. So this is a layer of the lighter, but I don't want them to be perfect layers. Maybe we'll go a little thicker up here. Thinner over here. And let's come in from this side. And I'm just going using the side edge of the marker. So that's the 2 starry skies. Now I'm going to go to the darker of the, this is the Orchid Oasis. So I'm going to go dark here of Orchid Oasis. Looks very similar when you get it like this. Okay, I know you're saying this isn't vellum, Diane. That's okay. We're going to use our vellum in just a moment. You might have had some vellum pieces that you received. Maybe you have some leftover pieces from a kit that you've used, and you've just kind of wondered, what do I do with them? So I'm hoping that through this you're going to see a few different things that you can do with your vellum. All right, and we're going to finish this off. I'm using the same colors here, so I'm back to my Tahitian Tide. Got the darker layer going on here. And remember, I'm coloring this over on our shimmer white, so there is a bit of sparkle already in here. You might not be able to see it on camera, but I can certainly see it up close. And I'll just finish this off with the lightest of the Tahitian Tide. Fill in any white spots here. Oh, there goes my husband with that vacuum cleaner. Bless his heart for vacuuming for me. He forgot I was doing a video. No problem. Okay, so isn't that cool? Now look at what you can do when you've got your vellum piece on top. So we could have made this card and put this as the focal point in underneath and had our vellum sit up above. So it really has some shimmer to it, and the vellum just kind of pops, and then we add our detail. So lots of different ideas, I hope, for you tonight. I will post the picture of this one finished, but I just wanted to show you some tips and tricks in using up vellum. So both of them are $13.75, either the plain paper, the plain vellum 8.5 by 11, or the pattern vellum comes in 12 by 12 sheets. Okay, so please join me next week. Subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button, and I hope to see you soon. Oh, sorry, I do have some Linktree. I have some class availabilities, so check that out, register online, and I will see you soon. Thanks for joining in. Bye for now.